Mr. Ishiba has hailed the US-Japan trade deal as a triumph, while US President Donald Trump described the pact as the biggest agreement ever made. But what exactly is in this new deal? Well, Tokyo has secured a 15% levy on Japanese exports to America. Mr. Ishiba noted it is by far the lowest ever among countries with a trade surplus with the US. While the new tariff is significantly lower than the 25% Mr. Trump threatened, it is still above the 10% rate set by Washington in April. Now, additionally, Japan will invest $550 billion into America, which Mr. Trump says will receive 90% of the profits. Mr. Ishiba says the investment will enable Japanese firms to build resilient supply chains in key sectors like pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. Japan's auto sector will also see existing tariffs cut to 15% from previous levies totaling 27.5%. More than a quarter of Japan's exports to the US are automobiles. Meanwhile, Washington says Japan will also increase purchases of agricultural products such as American rice. Japan's Prime Minister, on the other hand, said the share of US rice imports may increase, but emphasized that the agreement did not sacrifice Japanese agriculture. Now, the deal does not cover steel and aluminium exports, which are subject to a 50% tariff. Defense spending commitments from Japan are also not included in the deal.
守るべきものは守った上で、日米両国の国益に一致する形での合意を目指してまいりました。今回、トランプ大統領との間で、まさにそのような合意が実現するということになったものと考えております。
Japanese investors welcomed news of the deal. The Nikkei 225 index jumped 3.5%, reaching its highest closing level in about a year. The broader topics also gaining more than 3%. The yen strengthened but eased its gains after a top Bank of Japan official indicated that it was not in any rush to hike interest rates. Automakers such as Toyota and Honda leading the way, surging by double-digit percentages. Now, the US has also struck a trade deal with the Philippines following a meeting between President Trump and his Philippine counterpart, Ferdinand Marcos, at the White House. Washington has lowered duties on Manila by only 1 percentage point to 19%, while the Philippines will open its market up completely to US goods. The new levy is still above the 17% rate set by Washington in April.
We managed to bring down the 20% tariff rate for the Philippines to 19%. Now, 1% might seem like a very small concession. However, when you put it in real terms, it is a significant achievement.
And for more on the latest US trade deals, Jagruti Dave joins us live from Washington. Now, Jagruti, Japan is the only country so far that was able to lower tariffs on its automobiles and auto parts, but without the volume restrictions. Why did the US give concessions to Tokyo on this?
Well, I think it's to do with the fact that they are major trading partners and perhaps something to do with the fact that Japan is the US's largest foreign creditor. And that gave Japan some sort of leverage in these negotiations. But as you were mentioning in your roundup of what this trade deal involves, both sides are really touting this as a victory for each, which is very politically expedient for both sides, given the electoral situation in Japan. And of course, Donald Trump's hardball on global partners on trade tariffs and this tariff war that he appears to have been prepared to spark across the world. Now, one of the things I think it does is the agreement that it comes on is on those two key issues of rice and cars. And with cars, Japan appears to have agreed to drop extra safety tests on American cars that was actually stopping America from exporting more cars to Japan, which is something that Donald Trump had grumbled about a fair amount. So it's small details like this which appear to have sealed the deal. That $550 billion investment into the US from Japan, as you mentioned there, Japan is touting this as a victory for Japanese businesses because that is where the money will go into Japanese investments into areas like pharmaceuticals. But Donald Trump is touting this as a victory for Americans because he says that Americans will get a majority of the profits from this investment. So I think it's in the finer print, which the Japanese say that they're going to be mulling over in the weeks to come. But I think what you're seeing is a deal struck by two key important trade partners that require an agreement to get in place before these higher tariffs come into place.
Now, Jagruti, speaking of the finer print, that's still being ironed out in the trade deal with the Philippines. But what do we know about the agreement so far?
Well, what we know is that there is 19% tariffs on Philippine products that has been levied. And Donald Trump is saying that the US won't face tariffs at all on its products into the Philippines. And this is really all about Donald Trump's attempts to get access to Asian markets. With particular products like agriculture, livestock, those are the sorts of things that Donald Trump really, really wants to get access to. And he appears to have got some degree of it, as we've talked about with Japan and now with the Philippines. He's called the visit by the Philippines president a beautiful visit. And now this 19% is only a reduction of the 20% that was threatened by this August the 1st deadline. Now, just to give you a bit of perspective, according to the USTR trade figures for 2024, the US trade deficit with the Philippines was about $4.9 billion. Now, this was a more than 20% increase from the previous year. So this is one of the reasons why Donald Trump is keen to do trade deals with countries like the Philippines and with Japan, because he is very, very keen on reducing this trade deficit. He believes that that is the way to get America back on top in the global economy. Now, he's also struck a deal with Indonesia, another 19% tariffs, and he's saying that Indonesia will eliminate 99% of tariffs on US products across a variety of sectors. So as you can see here, Donald Trump really, really pushing this as a victory for the US. But as you say, the detail in the finer prints.
Jagruti, thank you for breaking all of that down for us. That was Jagruti Dave reporting live from Washington.